What is the best way for Game Freak and the Pokemon Company to truly testament the transition from an underpowered handheld to an HD system, bring the franchise out of the confined top-down game design and throw us into an ambitious 3D HD open world?
But is this too tall of an order for a developer of the size and experience as Game Freak? Or could they actually impress us this time around? Make sure to get some snacks, smash that like and subscribe button, because we're about to find out more inside Pokemon Switch. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Inside Pokemon Switch. Today we will look closer at the ambition and expectations Game Freak are setting with this game, and whether or not we should set our expectations high for this core RPG title. Ever since Nintendo decided to go hybrid for this current generation with the Switch, the Pokemon Company and Game Freak were forced to follow suit. This, however, brought a new challenge for the company and the development team. Namely, designing a brand new Pokemon title from the ground up with a brand new engine for a much more powerful and demanding system. In short, the Nintendo Switch has marked a major change for Game Freak, a developer that had little to no experience with developing HD titles for consoles and caused some discomfort among producers, directors, and developers.
These reservations might also have been the key reason as to why we received Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee last year, as Game Freak needed a simpler remake project in order to adapt to the Nintendo Switch, its software development kit, and even controls. However, the leap from the very simplistic and bound Pokemon Let's Go experience to a brand new title with less boundaries than what Game Freak might initially have been comfortable with is a challenge when setting off with the development of the core Pokemon Switch RPG. The main issue will always be the sky-high expectations that the company will face on an HD console handheld hybrid. Many, including us, would love an open-world Pokemon design similar to the one found in games like Breath of the Wild,
pretty much just like this concept made by Reddit user Hackdivision, a game with full analog camera control in a seamless 3D environment filled with trainers and wild Pokemon. However, is it even realistic to think in this direction when dealing with a developer like Game Freak? This is an important question to keep in mind, as more and more fans start dreaming away and setting themselves up for a major disappointment by the time of the reveal. Since let's face it, Pokemon Switch will not be as ambitious as the world found in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and there are a number of reasons as to why this is the case. For one, Game Freak is not the Zelda team at Nintendo EPD and Monolith Soft. They have absolutely no experience in designing open-world games or even 3D environments where you have full camera control, and definitely haven't had the time to implement a sophisticated physics engine that will delay your game 2 years so that you can get completely immersive interaction with the world you are in. No, that'll not happen, and we better just lower our expectations from that Breath of the Wild level for good. The sooner the better. So where should our expectations lie?
If we're going by Roger's base, we should set them slightly over Pokemon Let's Go. I think that they're going to do a complete revamp when it comes to the Pokemon Core Switch RPG.
Oh, really?
Because this is a mainline game.
I totally disagree. I think they're making all of these assets and they put together that engine specifically so they could use it for the next core generation. I think what's going to happen, and we might not see the effects of this next year, but I do think we are going to get a split with the Let's Go games and the main core RPGs. And I think they'll be made on the same engine, similar to what happened with the previous remakes. I just think the game mechanics are going to be drastically different. Because you got to remember, this is their first big HD game, beyond Town, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But they're not used to making games in HD, specifically Pokemon games. And so I think they're going to make the most of the engine they already put together.
I do agree with Roger that a fully seamless open world with no loading screens like the one found in Breath of the Wild seems to be unrealistic in a year when Nintendo needs a holiday seller. But at the same time, I do sincerely hope and want to believe that Pokemon Switch will run on a different engine and be more ambitious than Pokemon Let's Go. And this is where we have to address some of the statements given by Pokemon Company's president Tsunekazu Ishihara in Famitsu.
The new title coming out in the second half of 2019 will be a completely different game from Pokemon Let's Go. It's not an entry game, but a game that we want longtime fans of the Pokemon series to look forward to. The game will give a good understanding of what an involved Pokemon game looks like after it has continued to succeed the traditions of Game Freak. We want to make Pokemon fans say, "This is what I've been waiting for," by delivering a brand new product packed with gameplay elements and plenty of new Pokemon to encounter. If this wasn't enough, recently we have seen rumors pop up from rather credible leakers such as King Zell, who accurately predicted the Let's Go games and Animal Crossing Switch reveal, to which he wrote, quote, "If you liked Breath of the Wild, you will like next year. I said it before and I will say it again about Pokemon 2019. When the guys at Nintendo talked about it before E3 2018, they were hyping it like it's a Breath of the Wild tier game. They said it's the next big step for the franchise like Breath of the Wild was for Zelda. They are taking their time with it to ensure giving the players something big."
I have to admit, this looks exciting, but even though the game might be a break from tradition or even established conventions, it still doesn't give any greater support to King Zell's claim, seeing that Ishihara-san was only speaking in more general terms, and with this approach, we need to be prepared that a big leap for Game Freak will likely not be comparable to the leap that was done for the Zelda franchise with Breath of the Wild. So what should we believe? The skeptics saying that it will be a more ambitious game, but with the same engine and design found in Pokemon Let's Go, or the super optimists that see a third-person RPG on the level of Breath of the Wild with massive open world? We think somewhere in the middle. In short terms, we will believe when we see it, but until then we will look to examples in similar games in similar genres as reference points, as we rather be pleasantly surprised after setting our expectations low than setting our hopes sky high and fail to meet these demands.
Then what similar games and genres are we referencing? Specifically two, one by Level 5 and one by Game Freak. Let's begin with Yokai Watch 4, which appears to be the benchmark that many think Pokemon Switch should reach after or even surpass. So what's the big fuss about? It is all about the removal of locked camera and scrapping traditional grid and square-based world design. Yokai Watch 4 gets it with a simplistic Japanese anime art style, open environments with third-person analog camera control while exploring, and movement-based battles. Now what most of us probably desire is the exploration to get an overhaul, while the turn-based battle system is only reformed and updated. However, based on the experience from Breath of the Wild, we have learned that when a developer truly decides to shake up foundations, then there are no sacred cows. Looking at you, Breath of the Wild divine beasts and lack of traditional dungeons.
Anyhow, what Yokai Watch 4 shows is that it's possible to create a limited open world environment, despite limited resources. Game Freak already has Nintendo as a backing partner, and based on this cooperation, financial technological limitations shouldn't pose a problem. What might be a signal of Game Freak's level of ambition though, and struggles, is the oversaturation they have inflicted on themselves in the recent years. And since 2016 they have released not only Pokemon Sun and Moon, but also Ultra Sun and Moon, and Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. If this wasn't enough to deplete resources even more, they're currently working on another title alongside Pokemon Switch, namely the new RPG, Town. And this game might tell a lot of what to expect from Pokemon Switch.
Town, in contrast to past Game Freak titles, take place in what appears to be a relatively open environment, free from unnatural obstacles and boundaries, and is played from a third-person perspective. Now, we are not 100% sure, though it looks like it, that this title will feature dual analog camera controls while retaining a turn-based battle system with impressive scale. These are important clues, as Town is a testimony on what engines and game design Game Freak is currently working with. And you know what? If a similar anime art style, camera controls, limited open world, and game design is being prepared for the core Pokemon Switch RPG, then we will instantly fall in love with said title. It will be approachable and familiar, while not as overwhelming as Breath of the Wild's Hyrule. At the end of the day, isn't that exactly what we want from Pokemon Switch? A game with a good and polished art style, more freedom when it comes to movement and camera controls, and most importantly, an update to the turn-based battles? Pokemon Switch is living under immense pressure and hype, but if the game is already better than Town, then we have nothing to worry about, as we know that this game will be the benchmark, along with Yokai Watch 4, that everyone expects Game Freak to surpass. And on that note, we want to conclude that the best indication of a new engine, new control schemes, and the existence of an at least simplistic open world in Pokemon Switch is based on Game Freak's other ambitious IP debuting this year, town. We all know what the backlash will be if this game turns out to have better game design than the next generation Pokemon title, so please Game Freak, a simplified Breath of the Wild? That would be perfect. But what do you think? Will we see any type of open world in Pokemon Switch? We want to see your opinion in the comments section down below.
If you want us to do more in-depth Pokemon Switch analytical videos like this one, but on potential regions and important gameplay features, then make sure to press that like button, and if you're new here, subscribe and press the notification bell for all notifications. That way you will not miss a single episode of Inside Pokemon Switch. Finally, we want to inform that in order to continue several of our shows and free uploads per week, then we need your support on patreon.com/commonrealm. Be like our royal producer Kenyatta Ali and all of these other great Patreons and claim your rewards today. Until next time, this was the Commonwealth Realm, and we will see you soon.